The war had raged for what felt like an eternity, the space between human and alien territories a patchwork of skirmishes, secret missions, and quiet death. The Zoryn Empire, a brutal, aggressive alien race of towering, Amazonian women, had long been a thorn in humanity's side. They were fierce warriors, each one a towering figure with strength and agility unmatched by human soldiers. Their powerful weapons, honed through generations of conflict, made them unstoppable on the battlefield. It was on the edge of the Fellner system, on a barren, war-torn planet, that Sergeant James Carter found himself face-to-face with one of the Zoryn warriors. Carter had been deployed on a covert mission to eliminate a Zoryn stronghold and cripple their forces once and for all. The mission had gone sideways, his team ambushed, his communication devices destroyed, and the remnants of his squad scattered across the planet. Now, it was just him, alone against an army of Zoryn warriors. But Carter had always been good at surviving. His tactical training and experience in the field kept him alive, but he knew that this time, it would take more than a few tricks to escape. The Zoryn queen, Arana, had sent her fiercest fighters to hunt down the human soldiers, and now he found himself face-to-face with one of them, a Zoryn Amazon, standing tall, her massive physique outlined against the darkening sky, her body adorned in ornate armor that reflected the dying light of the planet. Carter had no choice but to confront her. The moment was surreal. The alien woman stood across from him, her eyes glowing with fierce intensity. She was armed with a jagged spear, the weapon glinting with deadly purpose. Her golden skin shimmered under the harsh light of the dying sun, and her muscles rippled as she shifted her weight, preparing for the fight. Carter had seen pictures of the Zoryn warriors before, but this was real. This was life or death. He couldn't help but feel a moment of awe at her sheer presence. This was a battle he hadn't anticipated, an enemy so powerful, so alien, that it made him question everything he knew about warfare. But he was a soldier, and soldiers didn't have the luxury of hesitation. The Amazon woman eyed him curiously, her head tilting slightly as she sized him up. It was clear she was waiting for him to make the first move. Carter felt the sweat trickling down his spine, but he steadied his breath, reaching for the sidearm holstered at his waist. The gun was small, not nearly powerful enough to take down a creature like her, but it was all he had. He raised the weapon, but instead of firing, he hesitated. The Zoryn fighter noticed the pause in his movement, her expression shifting, her confusion momentarily breaking her fierce focus. She had fought countless enemies, slaughtered many in close combat, but she had never encountered one like him. She had been trained to believe that humans were weak, fragile, and easily dispatched. Yet here was a soldier, standing before her with a weapon drawn, but not aimed at her. Instead, it hovered in a position of uncertainty. "You hesitate," she said, her voice a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate the air between them. "You have the advantage, human. Why do you not strike?" Carter's eyes widened slightly at the question. The woman had no fear. She wasn't threatened by him, not in the least. And yet, she was waiting for him to kill her. She was an Amazon warrior, trained to kill without mercy, but here she was giving him a chance. "I don't kill without reason," Carter said, his voice steady, though his heart raced in his chest. He had killed before, many times, but each death left a mark on his soul. This woman, this warrior, deserved more than just being another casualty in a senseless war. The Zoryn warrior blinked, as if processing the information. She looked at him, studying his face. Then her gaze shifted down to the weapon he held. Her expression softened ever so slightly, an almost imperceptible shift, but it was enough to catch his attention. "You do not wish to kill me?" Her voice, while still strong, carried a hint of disbelief. "No," Carter replied. "I don't." For a moment, neither of them moved. The world around them seemed to freeze, the noise of distant combat silenced by the strange connection that had formed in that brief instant. Carter had expected to fight for his life, to face the inevitable battle that would determine whether he lived or died. But instead, he found himself questioning the very nature of war. The Amazon stared at him, her fierce, warrior spirit slowly starting to fade as she took in his words. Her hand tightened around her spear, but she didn't move to strike. Instead, she stepped closer, as if testing his resolve. "You are different from the others," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You are not like them." Carter's brow furrowed. "Who? The other soldiers?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "The ones who came before you. The ones who attacked our lands, destroyed our homes. You are not like them." The tension between them was palpable. Carter could see it now. The Amazon wasn't just a mindless soldier. She had her own thoughts, her own beliefs. She wasn't the faceless enemy he had been taught to see. She was a person just like him, a person trapped in a cycle of violence she hadn't chosen. "Who are you?" Carter asked softly. "What's your name?" For a long moment, the Zoryn warrior said nothing. But then, with a surprising grace, she lowered her spear, letting it hang at her side. "I am Zyra," she said, "and I am an Amazon of the Zoryn." What happened next was something neither of them expected. Zyra stepped forward and extended her hand to Carter. He stared at it, confusion filling his mind. She had just been moments away from killing him, and now she was offering an alliance, a truce of sorts. "You could have killed me, human," Zyra said quietly, "but you did not. And for that, I am grateful. Perhaps we do not need to fight after all." Carter took a deep breath. It was a decision he hadn't anticipated. He was trained to survive, to fight until the end, but this was something else. The war between their species was senseless, driven by forces beyond their control. And for the first time, he realized that maybe he could make a difference. "Maybe we don't," Carter said, lowering his weapon and extending his hand toward her. In the weeks that followed, Carter and Zyra formed an unlikely alliance. Together, they fought side by side against the forces of war, against the forces that had driven their people to conflict. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but slowly, they began to bridge the gap between their two worlds. Carter's unexpected mercy had opened a door that neither he nor Zyra had ever imagined. And through that door, they found a new path, one that was filled with the possibility of peace, of understanding, and perhaps most surprising of all, friendship. As the war began to wind down, the humans and Zoryn reached a fragile truce, and the cycle of violence that had defined their histories was finally broken. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't without sacrifice, but it was a start. And for the first time in his life, Carter realized that the greatest reward he could ever receive was not survival, but the chance to change the future.